Hey guys, and welcome back to the Cultures. And it is back this time because it's been a few weeks, which I apologize for. I do want to be a bit more consistent with this, so thank you if you're back here. Thank you for bearing with me. I have had a few things going on, particularly the fact that I started a new job, and we all know how stressful that can be. And in the meantime, there have been a few things that I did want to touch on. And then I'm still shaken up by what happened on Wednesday, and it's the thing that's made me jump back on here this weekend in preparation before another Premier League weekend. So I will have some more things to say, but for now, I really want to focus on the death of Diego Armando Maradona, and someone who's had a huge influence on me as a football fan. If nothing else, from just the fashion side of it, I have a massive collection of Argentina gear, which of course Diego himself will have inspired. So I want to start by saying Diego Maradona is actually the third real footballer who made an impact on me. The first one was John Barnes, and I'm going to get into that in a whole nother video about race and racism in football. The second one piggybacks off the back of that, and it was Rod Hullett, but of course his stage was Euro 88, which was the first tournament that I watched pretty much every minute I could with my brother. And then the last one was the unicorn, Diego Maradona. So just to give you some context, there was no Serie A on Channel 4 or on TV where I grew up in the UK. So Maradona was, if you had been lucky enough to see the 1986 World Cup, Maradona, you got a bit of an inkling as to who he was. And then, for the next couple of years, he was probably out of the picture because we weren't covering his amazing run in Serie A with Napoli. And then he would resurface in 1990. So at my first experience of football, I just wanted to see way more of this guy. Now, being who I was going into school and talking about some of these players, and I got huge backlash when I was talking about Maradona in a good context. The only words I was hearing back was cheat, cheat, cheat. And to be honest with you, if nothing else, it intrigued me more. In the build-up to the 1990 World Cup, Maradona became even more front and center because obviously he was still a global superstar. And we got to see some of his magic from 1986. And I can't say I directly remember being speechless, but I do, the Maya Angelou phrase about how people remember how they made you feel. I remember watching the dribbles and the flicks and even his warm-up where he would head and shoulder. And I was like, this guy is insane, and I knew enough about me in my little period of football to know that this guy is something else. I don't watch him every week in what was the Football League at the time. I'm not watching him when I'm watching England matches or other European matches. This guy is cut from a different cloth. By the time 1990 World Cup did come around, I remember just the excitement of being able to watch him for the first time. And once again, even if he wasn't the player he was in 1986, individual talent, he was probably the best player. And just in his glorious way, his tournament would crescendo to the point where in the semi-final, he would play Italy in Napoli. This is what this guy was. He was showbiz. You couldn't make it up. You couldn't prepare for it. And there we were. There was a semi-final in Napoli, in Naples, and Maradona was leading his country into the stadium that had him as a godlike figure to play Italy. And Argentina won, again, in classic Maradona fashion. Now, with what I know, do I wish that he had won that second World Cup in 1990? 100%. I didn't know it at the time. I remember I wanted Argentina to win. I thought their goalkeeper, Sergio Goycochea, was cool. I thought he had an amazing shirt. I remember Claudia Caniggia, however you correctly pronounce it, and the flowing blonde hair. And I already had an affinity for South American football. So I wanted Argentina to win. But now I realize, I look back and I'm like, I wish Maradona had had that second World Cup. because he really, really deserved it for my generation. And you've seen all the players that in and around a certain age talking about him. He was the greatest. Up till that point, he was the greatest. And I really don't want to get into the whole Pele versus Maradona discussion because I just didn't see enough of Pele. But if you are from the 80s and 90s, Maradona was the guy. All the way to the fact that when you get to the 1994 World Cup, the best player in the world, Romario, in that World Cup, just you can't compare him to Maradona. That's how good Maradona was. And I know in the 80s there were the people who talk about Platini and the people who talk about Zico. Myself, I have a huge soft spot for Rod Hullet. But nobody could compare to Diego Maradona. Want to move it a bit forward to I'm talking about. I just mentioned the 1994 World Cup. Now, going into that World Cup, I have to say that I wanted a Latin America, South American team to win it, but my favor at that point going into the World Cup was on Brazil. You know, Brazil were you were allowed to support Brazil in England, and again, I didn't really understand the Falklands. I didn't understand my place in this whole thing. So I went with it, and there was a couple of other influences, so I kind of went with it. But I always had my eye on these guys, always. And I remember Gabriel Batistuta scored a hat-trick, and my brother had put me on to Batistuta, and I already knew what a fantastic number 9 he was. But in that game against Greece, who was the guy who got that goal that sealed the game? Maradona. And then he ran to the camera, and he was just show business. He was just a superstar, and he had this possessed look. And at that moment, I was like, uh-oh, like, here we go. This is a team that's probably going to make a push. And very soon we found out that he failed a drugs test, and his international career was over, and his World Cup career was over. But Maradona wasn't done. Maradona was, coming to the end of his career, but just as an influence, he was definitely not done, particularly on me. He was the first reason I started to take notice of South American teams. I know he went to Sevilla after Napoli, but after that he was in Boca Juniors. So Boca Juniors was, again, different time, different media, different video games, different everything. I remember reading in a magazine that Diego Maradona had signed for Boca Juniors, and again, I was mesmerized. I was mesmerized by the kit. I was mesmerized by the stadium. What was he going to go down there and do? And then I remember the spreads of him and just the hero worship he was getting in Argentina. And I just thought it was cool, and he was cool. And Diego Maradona, his influence never, ever, ever died if you were from that time. His health issues, going into the 2010 World Cup when he became the manager of Argentina. I remember I stayed up late. I was still living in England at the time, and Argentina needed to score. Argentina needed a result, and Martin Palermo, another crazy character, stepped up and scores a really late goal. And Maradona goes around like sliding. If I remember correctly, it was raining, and he did like a slide on the pitch. And he took Argentina to the World Cup in 2010. Just everything about him was so magical and majestic, and all the way down to the modern day documentary that came out, or ITV in the UK showed a show a couple of days ago where the likes of Peter Shilton and Gary Lineker still not over what happened in 1986, and again, it just makes the whole Maradona legend. I was about to say myth, but Maradona is a legend. It makes the whole legend even more real, because there is a guy who was tiny and he outjumps a goalkeeper because he uses his hand, and then 5 minutes later he's like, yeah, I'll show you who the best player in the world is. And then you've got the iconic the shot from the semi-final against Belgium, and how many times I've used that in a presentation when I've been talking to my team and said, you can get over anything. And there's a line of Belgian players and Maradona on his own, just about to take them all on. He's everything. He's everything. He was a loving family guy. He was an icon. He was, from a very early age, thrust into the limelight. And, you know, did he make mistakes? Yeah. Was it a different time? Of course. But one thing is, if you were a football fan, the way he made you feel, again, unless you were raised as a child growing up with Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, nobody could make you feel that way, because nobody did what he did. He was unbelievable. You know, you'd get a Ryan Giggs popping up for Man United once a season or once every couple of years and doing a mazy dribble. Manchester City had Georgie Kinkladze. There were so many people who could do the odd dribble here and there, but at the highest stage, to take on the world, no one did it like El Diego. The last thing I want to talk about is influences as a designer. So somebody who's been graphic designing for years now. Maradona was always one of my practice projects. So if I was learning a new skill, if I was experimenting, I have so much art dating back years of just Maradona's drip, his swag. He was just something different, and whether it was cutting out a silhouette of him running in 1986 World Cup, or just using his likeness in something else, and taking a picture and putting some blue and white filters on there. Maradona inspired footballers, he inspired art, he inspired people, he gave us a focal point, and regardless of what he did to himself, the abuse he put his own body through, he always gave people like me hope, and he always gave football fans hope. I do hope, having watched some of the England stuff recently, that people can get over the bitterness of 1986. I've got to give a lot of respect to the people that weren't playing and were just fans at the time and have come out and made their peace with him. I would love it, for my personal sake, just to see if other people forgave him as well. There was nothing saying that England were going to win the World Cup in 1986. But yeah, above anything else, what a man, what a legend, what an influence. I shed some tears on Friday. I watched some shows on Thursday. I'm back on video today, and it's all in the name of Diego. So wherever he is, up in the heavens, I hope that he's happy now. I hope he's looking after himself. I hope he's living his best life like he always did. And I will never forget the effect that Maradona had on me. Looking to come back at you with a lot more content. My Instagram, The Cultures, is doing a lot more posting now as well. So we're going to make this thing happen. Where I am in Toronto, Canada, is in another lockdown. So I've got time on my hands to make this happen now. So please follow me. Please share with your friends. Please subscribe. And for now, I will speak to you soon. All the best. Bye.